Well, hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome back to City Skylines 2, Episode 5, City Services, a feature highlight and upcoming features to City Skylines 2 when it drops on October 24th, 2023. Yeah, the cities and all the features we've seen so far are beautiful, and yet again, I am blown away by all the new features that were previously hinted at or that we had questions about in all the other gameplay footage and developer meetings that we've seen. Like, they continuously are just blowing me away with the things that they come up with, the things that they explain, and the things that you can do in this game. Now, a lot of this looks and feels like SimCity from 2013, and that's good. It feels like there's a heart and a soul of a different game inside of this one, and I truly miss SimCity 2013, even though it's still around and still kicking. I think it tried to do a few things aside from the map size that were really good. And obviously City Skylines 2 is taking a lot of those from, of course, having a system where all the water and power and sewage can go through the roadways, and also, of course, modular buildings that can be upgraded later on to scale with your city. But yesterday, they dropped a feature that had me crying and shaking. Emotional overreaction. I mean, seriously, I felt shooketh, really, to my core. And it was great. Communications, yeah. Not only talking about the postal services being baked into day one City Skylines, an industrial DLC where mail and mail sorting services were available via the post office, but also telecommunications. Yeah, building towers right there to supply your commercial offices with range and connectivity speed to the internet, making everybody happier, making businesses more profitable, and really showcasing something that I really wanted for City Skylines for a very long time. Was not necessarily building a city outwards or building more of a city, but building a better city, building more educated workers, better power plants, better connectivity, better roads, and using what you had already to its fullest rather than continuously expanding. Now, since then, we found out a lot of things about how you can have up to, I think it's, 44 spaces or 404. I keep getting so much information about this. You guys have shared tons of details down below, and I keep scouring their blogs every single time that they drop a new featurette, but it is still not enough time to just cover everything in this game. So anything that you know, or anything that I may miss, or anything that you find out after watching this video, hurry on back and let me know down below in the comments section. As, well, I was going to say this will be an info dump, and literally the custom-made landfill pops up on the screen. I love it. More customization for building more buildings, such as the industrial ones we saw last time. But yeah, landfills can now be customized to be as large as you want, and of course that helps with recycling and waste management before you have something along the lines to actually deal with it, such as recycling and incineration fully operational. Of course, they elaborated on a few things where now we can export power and water and garbage services, and we can also import certain services like power, and they kind of already confirmed that, but elaborated on it a little bit more. And it's got me really, truly excited. I cannot wait to see more things in this game. We've got so much to talk about. Things like, for example, adjusting not only the budget, but the fees for city services and much more. Let's go into some more detail then. So one of the first major differences that had me applauding on stream was essentially finding out that city services can be charged for differently, and so that's kind of cool, because then you can adjust your tax rate but make up for money that you might not have by exporting city services and or charging more for those exports, or to your people in the city, charging more for water and power and garbage services, or doing so for a neighbor, which could definitely make up for a lot of the money you may be losing or wanting to gain to build more stuff. And another thing that seems to be very apparent with this game is how much things will cost, putting down schools and hospitals costing nearly multi-million dollars, and their expansions too. So if you're trying to build a new school for a city that desperately needs it, and you're trying to future-proof it, you're not just going to need the base $500,000 or $750,000 or $1 million. You'll need multi-million dollars in order to, of course, build that building and then, of course, add onto it to then fit the city's needs. Now, some of you have made a valid point about how if you're building it in a small town is huge, like, for example, the police station having just a massive, like, park attached to it, it seems a little heavy-handed to have all that territory when you really don't plan to upgrade. But now there's always the option of building another one somewhere else, taking up even more space. But yeah, these are the new problems we'll have to face, and hopefully we get something along the lines of when we had content creator buildings such as the small South Korean hospital in fire department and police station that take up minimal space and do provide some sort of a ring around them. However, it seems like they've completely removed that. It's no longer optional to build a hospital just to cover a small area. It's going to have to be assigned to districts. So a lot more micromanaging here, which I certainly welcome. And one of the big problems in your city, of course, would be people not being able to access schools and hospitals and whatnot, and then having very difficult times, and then going through the city's welfare system and having to basically not have their needs met. The welfare systems to try to keep them in until you, as the mayor, have accounted for a lack of jobs or something, so they can get back going with their life. And it's a good thing if you take all that time to have them move in, house them. They've paid a ton of tax dollars, you've educated them, and then you've made a change to the city. Or meteorite strikes, which they did cover some of the emergency services, including like a radar dish. We have now the fire station, like the fire tower, to look for natural disasters such as that, and other things, maybe perhaps like tsunamis. And of course, the option to turn natural disasters on from the beginning means that that's baked in. And when you have a big disaster like that, yeah, your welfare center could be a good emergency response center to try to get everybody some food and water and rebuild the city. And that could be something to use in the future. But yeah, there is so much to cover here. I can't believe how many things that city services elaborated on. Of course, the addition of talking about what the city hall and the city bank will do in terms of loans and interest rates, being able to take out bigger loans, being able to get better trade deals for all of your factories and whatnot, being able to discuss things via business meetings and whatnot, and having expos for people of different trades and people of different industries to then meet and discuss trade deals. And that's another thing that goes in with the internet as well. And so I don't know if you really need to build a gargantuan city as much anymore, or you could build a pretty big city and then expand. But let's expand a little bit more on our knowledge by listening to what the devs have to say.
City building and City Skylines 2 is all about people, anticipating their needs and desires, ensuring they feel safe and actually keeping them safe, understanding what annoys and delights them, and doing what it takes to give them healthy, happy lives from beginning to end. How? City services. You'll build clinics and hospitals to deliver healthcare, plus the ambulance service people need in life or death situations. Oh, yeah, sometimes it will be a death situation. So you'll add death care services that transport people to the city's crematoriums and cemeteries. You'll set up schools for kids of all ages, plus colleges and universities. After all, education fosters social advancement. Life still might take a turn for the worse for some people. When it does, you'll want the safety net of a welfare office. One thing that improves everyone's well-being, no matter what's going on in life, is time outdoors. You'll create parks, plazas, attractions, and landmarks that make people living nearby happier and healthier. As in real life, safety first is a good mantra in City Skylines 2. So you'll want various fire and rescue services. Just adding a firehouse reduces the likelihood of a blaze in the neighborhood. Same with police stations. Build them and send patrols out onto the streets to cut crime. Communications is a new city service in City Skylines 2, helping you meet more essential needs. That includes the internet. Naturally, the easier it is to connect to the web, the happier everyone will feel and the more profitable the city's businesses will be. Of course, everyone relies on electricity, so you want to avoid long outages. They aren't just aggravating. Blackouts will prompt people to move out and force businesses to pause production, putting profits at risk. Keep electricity lines humming with sustainable energy sources like wind, solar, geothermal, and hydropower. Go old school with fossil fuels like coal and gas. There's always the nuclear option too. This is the most realistic city builder ever. So you'll need to deal with a lot of stuff. We're talking sewage. Gross? Yes. Necessary? Also yes. With a wastewater treatment plant, you can purify sewage and circulate water into your city's freshwater network. Or you can pump sewage into open waters and out of the network. Don't forget to stay on top of garbage. Garbage processing centers, landfills, and an incineration plant will stop it piling up. But don't take shortcuts. Air and water pollution can sink land values, harm the health of residents, and tarnish the city's appeal to tourists. Ready to introduce a city service? Previously, you only had to construct a city service building. When that service needed to cover a larger area or support more people, you simply constructed the same building again. Not anymore. almost all city services can now be upgraded to scale operations and expand functionality. While city services make your city livable, they come at a cost. Balancing these costs and the very real needs of everyone in your city is the name of the game. Subscribe to the City Skylines 2 YouTube channel for updates and more feature highlights.
You know, I think these dev videos are fantastic to welcome new people to City Skylines who maybe perhaps before didn't have the time or the money or the equipment to get into City Skylines 2 and gathered massively overwhelming interest during, for example, COVID, finding out about a new game coming out and wanting to play themselves. So I just wanted to say, like, you know, these hype videos from myself, the developers, and everybody else are just, it's great to see all the excitement. And it's good to see you all excited too, because of course, we're all going to play this game at some point. It'll go on sale, and it's probably going to be a big banger and a bestseller, even though I think it's got some things that it needs to work on, and that should be different from day one. City Skylines, of course, changed over time, and I hope some things change already in this game. I feel like some of the buildings look just a little bland. I've only felt that now, after looking at some of the city buildings, such as what I think is like the elementary school with the fountain out front, but I don't know, par for the course for City Skylines. And additionally, I know we all want super high graphics, but additionally, frame rate is important, and also so is the size of the city. So having a huge city, not being able to play it, not a great thing. But another huge city problem will be, of course, having all of our people happy through parks and monuments and sightseeing. And it looks like through the Parks tab, we discovered a few things. For example, you know, obviously building parks is going to be a requirement. And it looks like there might be things along the lines of natural parks, like, for example, a small little forested area with a picnic table and maybe a little path through it. But then also plazas, too, for a more major setting, like, for example, a commercial area or a higher residential density, or maybe some sort of a memorial square that you're building for the monuments that you'll put down, or next to your signature buildings, and being able to decorate that way. Something I really want to see in this game is the ability to build away from the roads, and you know, having like a park that's off the road and having a path lead to it, I think is really important to me, as well as the ability to modularly build parks. You know, SimCity 2013 did have the ability to plop down a big old park and then add other parks to it, so we're still using the same assets, but we're able to at least provide some sort of customization. That would be a good thing, and I hope for that with, for example, the power plants and hospitals, where we don't just get to put them in one place, but maybe multiple. And it does seem possible with the school, for example, to be able to build onto like the east wing and the west wing of the school, but it can only be left and right. It doesn't look like you can freely place it on top of the school or behind the school, but yeah, mods, I know. It's probably going to be a billion mods. But remember, these devs are trying to sell us a product, and they've already planned out 3 million DLCs of things that they will elaborate on or haven't necessarily included in this version of the game for 1.0. Sounds a little sinister, but that's business, and companies are in the business of making money, and that's of course what we want to do in City Skylines as well. So it's a full circle. Wow, it's like when you know, whenever you're watching a video game or playing a video game, the lights in that game are actually using real power. Did you ever think of that? Yeah, I know. But anyway, to elaborate a little bit more on another thing that really impressed me about City Skylines 2 for the city services was not only the ability to build onto pre-existing buildings, but also to build buildings that support them. There is now a new building for, and something that's similar to the unique buildings from City Skylines 1, health institutes and other buildings that may support your whole medical infrastructure without having to build onto that building too. So it almost seems like every building's got an equivalent to like a small, medium, and a large size building, and then a support building too. And for example, education. You have a small elementary school, high school, university, and then something else that seems to be like a technical institute or several buildings for that. And I love to speculate on things. And if you've watched this far, please do give me a lengthy breakdown of the things that you like and that you don't like and that you found out. I'm scouring the blog for more things. For example, information about how tow trucks will be an intricate part of your city too. The Public Works Department or the Roads Department not only, of course, will do maintenance on the road, but after an accident has been essentially cleared of the victims and people involved, then your city services like tow trucks will come up, and those are stored in your road depot. So it might be a good idea to have multiples of those, especially if you've got a snowy climate, which we have yet to see. And of course, the developers will be elaborating on some things regarding water and power that we see here today next week too. But it's going to be an important thing to build multiple of everything, and I have a feeling that some things might be a little too big. Some buildings we will have to get used to pre-planning in our minds on how big we want to build parks and whatnot at the start. And I hope to build a giant city, a vanilla city that I basically leave untouched for a few years and then maybe add on to with DLCs over time. I have a city from SimCity 1 from 2015 that essentially is untouched, maybe except for a few things from After Dark and Snowfall, and it would be incredible to build a city here and then hold on to it and see how things change down the road. We have elements, of course, of the industrial DLC here. We have elements of mass transit and some of the university DLC, and it looks like they've included maybe, if there were 5 major things included in each of those major DLCs, it seems like there's at least 1 or perhaps 2. And, for example, the airports, those are ploppable and we don't get to build a custom airport anymore. But I do want more customization based on all the things that they've shown us that are ploppable. Of course, we have a geothermal plants. We have batteries now in order to store power for nighttime. So if you're going more solar and wind, you can actually account for fluctuations in your power by doing it that way. And also, it looks like you'll be able to build water tanks for water storage to account for when people are at work versus when they're at home boiling the tea kettle or something. Of course, a famous story about British Water and Power having a huge surge when people are home watching football games or watching television premieres, especially back in the day on the BBC, then filling all their tea kettles with water and then, of course, plugging those in and flipping those on if they were electric. And so that'd be kind of cool to see events like this in the city. It would also be great to see buildings elaborated on. We have signature buildings that are great, and we have city services, which are great, but I'd love to see some buildings that perhaps were negative. Like, for example, the Dr. Vu buildings from SimCity 2013, or from SimCity 4. I know many of you are asking for military bases, and SimCity 4 did have a military base, missile silo, and a maximum security prison, too, and that was kind of a debuff, but you did get federal funding for that, although your city had to deal with the consequences of maybe not being as attractive or added crime. For example, a casino. And I would love to see some buildings like that where, you generate more tax dollars that way, and that could be a budget solution, but then you have to pay back into solving a lot more crime from all of that, from the seedy underbelly that may come around from a lack of those honest folk. But anyway, to elaborate further on city services, I'm really enjoying the fact that a lot of the waterfronts look gorgeous. They, of course, show more and more of the city each time. We see different districts from it. There does appear to be a difference between how the American and the European buildings will look for some of them. The American and European police station looking slightly different, but I'm not sure about, like, for example, power plants or the tram station, if the building itself will look different. But if the developers happen to make a fully fleshed out difference for every building that's a city service, that would really impress me. And there's nothing more I would love to see that, and then other DLCs. As I hinted on before, the developers seem to have hinted that both North America and Europe are coming to City Skylines 2 at launch for the themes, and so we could see other themes down the road of South Korea, Japan, things that they've done before, Africa, and it would really be awesome to be able to build in those areas, which have a different climate than what seems to be the continuous temperate climate of, like, Europe and the United States, which, of course, that's exactly what they're going for here. So most maps will reflect Scandinavia and or Northern Europe, Central Europe, and many places in the United States. Mostly, just it seems to be non-desert again. And that's something that's just boggling my mind. Just like how it took us forever to get roundabouts that are somewhat decent. From the days of SimCity 4, I had thought, man, I bet SimCity 2013, I didn't know it at the time, but the next SimCity will have roundabouts. And all we got was its painful death through the greed of EA, which is sad. Max has made a pretty damn good game, aside from a few major things I think were forced by the publisher, but when it comes to some of the things that City Skylines did, I was impressed with, like the larger roundabouts. But now we can build things more tight-knit, it looks more realistic, and I love the use of all the space. It always irks me to see a little bit of a corner, like a green triangle on the corner of a huge, high-density area, and then not be able to pave it in. So there should be paving options to be able to plop down something like a small cobblestone corner and then a small statue in the ploppables tab. But yeah, love to see the power plant for nuclear. Of course, this is the only power plant in this city, as I think you can only build one of each power plant, so I don't think you can get away with building without mods. Like 7 different nuclear power plants to power your city and all the neighbors. It looks like those might be a one-time building, at least for nuclear. There could be a federal limit on that they'd like to kind of simulate, but it does appear that you'll be able to build multiple water treatment sites, multiple landfills. Of course, drinking water can have multiple sources for that, and your landfills too, and that's going to be interesting to try to keep the landfills super far away from your city. And going on to what I said about all the tiles that you can expand to, Yeah, those are not buildings that you're going to build very far away from the city at the start, especially if they have unlockable tiles. They do mention that those tiles are unlockable. And in the lower left corner, if you notice where it says Megaopolis, sometimes you'll see a number count. Going back to what I said again and again about education being important, I do like the fact that we can put our citizens to work in projects that will unlock for the city, and I'm really happy that we're getting like a City Skylines 1.75 plus SimCity 2013, like maybe like 25% of that game. I love it. It's a wonderful blend, and I love seeing, again, going back to the city services, different ways to lower the tax rate. We'll have to figure out what is the best way to make money. We're going to have to worry about toll booths. We're going to have to worry about different types of properties getting different levels of taxes, perhaps. You can't just lock everything at 12% anymore, can we? Maybe it's different. Mixed residential maybe wants a different tax rate. Maybe industrial wants a different tax rate. Maybe those rates increase and there's not like a hard cap on that. Or of course, there's other ways to make money too from your exports. You could be somewhat negative in your budget, yet making up for it through ticket sales on massive sporting events. Or perhaps with our airport, maybe we can make another city airline again. But there's so much more to work our way through in City Skylines 2. I just think it's an absolute, very exciting time. And I like living in Hypeville. I like being the mayor of Hypeville right now. I know that I'm not going to get everything that my expectations are up to. I know there's going to be a few things that are frustrating, annoying day one. We're all going to have to learn to play vanilla again and not have options of the Move It mod and some of the things that we've gotten accustomed to. But it does look at least that there's a lot of things here that might remove the requirement for so many mods. But yeah, this thing's going to be modded from here to Timbuktu, which is a fictional place. I'm just kidding, it's real. But you know what's great is the option to build close buildings together, decorate everything, having a new game to do so with new elements, and I'm just generally excited for the game. I mean, I honestly think that it's going to be a long time, a very long time, until we see another city builder quite like City Skylines. Some come close, and City Skylines argues to be the most realistic city builder, and I would argue that some games like, for example, Transport Fever 2, although more focused on transport, you are still building cities by transporting things to them, hence City Skylines 2 by building all the railroads and outside connections, but additionally bringing in all that cargo via airline, and games like, for example, Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, where it's more about shipping out raw resources and basic things like steel, prefab concrete, and building your nation that way. And I'd love to see, unfortunately, I'm not seeing it so far, but some sort of a great works or a wonder where we can put all of our industries to work to build something great that just doesn't cost money and then provides us with an educational boost. I'm glad it's not just a desirability, tourism, and maybe some tax dollars, but it also increases education and whatnot. And we have problems to solve in our cities. Of course, the beautiful Pooh Pipe and Pooh River. We, of course, have to do water treatment that way, and there's different options to solve that by treating that water and maybe pumping some of the unclean water back into the river if you want to, or there is a way to get rid of it by sending it to landfills. I don't know if that's something that will biodegrade or if it could be used as fertilizer for the farms, as they would in Farthest Frontier, a game where they use night soil collectors to basically go get all the chamber pots and other lovely stuff that people create just out of the natural order of things, and then, of course, distribute it on the farms to make more food. Now, I don't think we'll get something that intricate. I think farms will just generate X number of whatever based on that, but it would be kind of cool to build this game in more of a survival setting where you try to provide your people with every single service independently, but we do have the option to at least connect to a pre-existing nation or like other cities that in our mind we may have created, and I'm very excited about that. More things to see. For example, we have now district policies, a little peek at that, and city policies. Things removing high-speed limits on highways. We have, of course, the internet now and connectivity that way, so there might be a way to provide that service for free, and that might benefit our city a lot if tax rate's a little higher, but everybody gets the most valuable resource of a connection to the internet for students and people wanting to download, for example, watching this video and hitting the like button. The internet's pretty important, just to name a couple of random things like that. But yeah, I'm getting excited for City Skylines 2. It's coming soon. Every single time they drop a video like this, it's an event. And I'm very excited for Thursday's live stream, where the developers will cover a lot more of this in a featurette, where the I think it's the game lead or game designers will talk a little bit more about what they have planned for City Skylines 2, show more footage, show more features, show them some things that are unrelated to what they basically put on screen. I wouldn't be surprised if when next time they talk about electricity and water, that we get to see hydroelectric dams and perhaps the way to control water and maybe ways to pump and manipulate that a little bit more, which is kind of related to that with obviously water and power in the name. But I want to see how things work and if we can have tsunamis and recovering from disasters or something. They do hint at that, like for example the power outages by not planning it, and of course the low and high voltage lines for your power plants. Even more detail now, though they're under the roads. Of course, we have to build substations and we have to build high voltage connections and low voltage connections, very similar to what I wanted to see from Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. So, not as intricate as it was before by connecting every nook and cranny of the city to power lines and having just ugly lines going across your highways where maybe power couldn't reach. But now we have the option to build a big O nuclear power plant off in the distance or a coal power plant and having a really cool high voltage line going off the map to some other partner, and of course having one go into the city and then substations to supply that to the city itself or different nodes of the city too. Of course, it'd be kind of cool to be able to have those services work independently and having to worry about blockage. Yeah, another feature in this game is the power lines being overloaded and you having to create more connections to those roads and whatnot. So if your industrial area is sucking up a lot of power, it can't all just flow through one power line or one substation. You might need to make multiple connections to the same industrial area through high voltage lines. Perhaps we'll get different meters or limits for voltage and then be able to build a substation, maybe a medium switch station, and then supply that to a substation for low voltage through the roads. I don't know. There's a lot of options here, and I'm glad at least the developers are trying to make a couple of baby steps, like 3 steps into each thing that I've wanted to see in City Skylines 2, and I'm blown away. Wish we could get some multiplayer though, but you never know. It could be updated in the future. Not every game needs it, but man, I would love to yell at my friends about how they built their road wrong. All right, guys. Well, let me know all your thoughts, opinions, and everything you've learned down below in the comments section. Let me know if you're hyped or if you're kind of meh, if you'll stick with the first game, or maybe you're holding out still on SimCity 2013. Not entirely a bad game, but certainly one that's inspired City Skylines 2 and City Skylines 1 quite a bit. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for subbing to the channel. Don't forget to tune in Thursdays and Mondays for live streams covering this live with the developers, and then, of course, more videos like this, taking a deeper dive at all the features in City Skylines 2. Coming soon. Very, very excited. Take care, have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye, everyone.